Hi, Lachelle.
Hi, Lori. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing really good. Good. I'm so glad that you could join us today.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. I appreciate you asking.
This is awesome. I'm just trying to get out of my comfort zone. So I appreciate you getting out of my comfort zone with me, you know?
Yeah, we'll do it together.
That is awesome. So we are just basically just a little background. Andrew and I, what we have been doing is doing these little self development segments once a week. And
Hmm.
so, we just are organically changing the format as things evolve. So we just want to be able to add value to people through different kind of mediums. He's a millennial and I'm the age I am. Ex-millennial. So, I'm just kind of like going with the flow wherever it leads us, because there is just an audience in every different platform.
Hmm.
So it kind of feels like I'm at home. It's just kind of crazy. I got toddlers and young adults and teenagers. So, I feel like I'm at home, kind of like with the
I was gonna
chaos.
say you have that at your house anyway, so you
Yes,
live it.
yes. So he has the topics. We're going to pretty much go over what we're going to talk about, and then we're going to give you a few minutes to kind of tell everybody who you are, what your specialties are, and then we'll just get started from there. Okay.
Okay, sounds great.
All right.
How you doing, Lori?
Good. How are you, Andrew?
Pretty good. Today, I want to get into the topic of turning stress into fuel. So basically, I did identifying stress and basically figuring out exactly what to do with it. I was on your LinkedIn page and I saw that you were a big reduced stress person. You are owner um, of an organization to help people with their mental health and their stress management. So I just feel like this was a topic that you could definitely fill in on. It's something that you're already dealing with.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of right at the core of most of my messaging because that's where most people are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I kind of feel like I need to speak to that. Um, even beyond just anxiety, depression, we hear all those issues that everybody talks about, but stress is fueling a lot of it. So if you
Yes,
can handle that, you can at least get a grasp on the rest of it.
definitely. Yes.
So it's a
So,
great topic. So
yeah.
I appreciate you guys pulling me into that.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and let you get started and just telling us, what it is you do, how you got into that, with maybe stress being a core topic for you. What
Hmm.
was it that kind of was that pivotal point to have you do the field that you're doing now?
Well, I mean, I spent 20 years in the marketing and communications field in the corporate area. So
Mm-hmm.
that was really my training ground for a lot of what I do now. And I hit a point, as a lot of people do, in that mid career phase where you're like, okay, what's next for me? What am I really doing?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time, my husband had gone back to get his master's in mental health counseling, and he and I are very similar in how we deal with people. He said, you'd be great for this. Why don't you consider going back to school, getting your master's? And he said, we'll both do it together, and then we'll open a practice together.
Wow.
He's a visionary. He could see all that.
Mm-hmm.
That was like almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
And so I just, while I was working full time, went to school, got my master's degree. But then I hit a point in that corporate area. I hit that wall again where I was like, what am I really doing here? There was a lot of change going on around me, some real toxicity at several places that I had worked. And so I was just like, I don't really need to be here because I have
Mm-hmm.
something else that I feel like I'm being sort of called to
Exactly.
do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I had the education, I'd already graduated. I was just kind of waiting for the right time, and I was like, okay, well, I have to make it the right time. So I pulled the trigger on it and went full time. I'd been kind of, I call it poking it with a stick, seeing
Right.
clients here and there, but I was like, I need to jump in both feet and just do it. And so that kind of started that journey. But then I started dealing with clients full time, seeing a lot of different issues, but people, my peers, especially in that corporate environment, I could still see all of that drama was going on, all that change, and that's mostly what I was hearing from people is, why is my work so hard?
I
Why is going
see.
to work it's so difficult? And so that's where that focus really started because I'd been through it myself, and I recognize now that I have not all the skills, but I have a lot of skills. I have a lot of great skills now that I learned in my master's
Mm-hmm.
program that, I could have managed that better when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that kind of became my heart to say, look, is your boss a micromanager? Probably a lot are, but what
Right.
you have some power over that still, even though it's hard for you, or if, you're worried you're going to get laid off because you just got acquired by a new company, you still have a lot of power. So I think my focus is really helping people see, look, things may be really hard, but you have so many options if you choose to look for them. And so
Oh, that's
that's
good.
kind of that's the underlying, current of all of my messaging is, you got this, but you have to
Right.
stop for a minute. And then, there's all the other stuff about stress that, we may touch on as well. But
Mm-hmm.
that's my driving message is, I've been there. I know what it's like. You can totally
Mm-hmm.
get some mastery over it if you just look at what your options are and, kind of manage yourself.
That sounds good. I mean, you brought up a lot of different points that probably could be a whole podcast by itself. The first thing was the whole thing of the decision for you and your husband to work together. So
Mhm.
having a supportive spouse, I mean, I just know that that is definitely something that would be very advantageous for somebody who has had a career, who is working a 9 to 5, been in that societal mode of thinking you have to work for somebody, but to have the support to let go of that. I mean, that
Mhm.
in itself is volumes, because
Mhm.
a lot of people don't have that,
Right.
and
Mhm.
so that's one of the things that stops them from moving forward and pursuing their own dreams because they have a spouse that can't really see that vision. So that's
Mhm.
one of the things that I would say awesome for you. That's great that you and your husband have that kind of relationship.
Yeah, well, he's definitely been, the driver of a lot of it to say, look, it's not as hard as you think it is,
Mm-hmm.
and to have that support, you're right, is critical because otherwise it's easy to feel trapped. What am I doing? Where am I
Right.
going? And I have no options, and that in and of
Mm-hmm.
itself that can lead you down to depression and anxiety real quick. So, yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, we're 28 years together, so I mean, we know each other
Yeah.
really well, and he's my rock for sure. So.
That's good. That's good. So that's an awesome thing. So that's one of the things that's definitely a key point for somebody to be mindful of. The second thing is the fact that you said you just kind of jumped in, you were just ready. So with that decision, what was it that really just kind of like you said, you were poking at it for a while, kind of having clients on the side. What was it that really just made you decide today's the day? I'm not going to poke at it anymore. I'm just going to jump in. What was that day like, or that thought process?
Well, for me, I mean, I wish I could say it was like this massive dream that was just fueling me and empowering me and I was running towards it. But I tend to
Mm-hmm.
respond more to when I feel like there's a deficit or I'm lacking and I'm not really living up to my potential and I'm
Okay.
kind of underutilizing myself, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
real tuned into that. And that really
Mm-hmm.
came when I was in that work situation where I really just I couldn't see the way forward. And I'm like, okay, do I really want to do this for another 15 or 20 good working years and maybe build up a pension? I mean, have a good 401k, all that stuff, but where
Mm-hmm.
does it really lead me? And it was, I guess I had interviewed for a position thinking, well, maybe the answer is in just another job in the same field. And so when I interviewed for the position, it had all the right markers. But I remember the person interviewing me said, I really want a long term commitment from whoever I hire. And he was
Mm-hmm.
talking like 10 years, which is crazy in today's world. Who asks for 10
Okay.
years, right? I was like, okay, that's a long time. But
Isn't that the truth?
yeah, but then on the way home, I was like, okay, it looks good on the surface, but I mean, do I really want to commit 10 years of my life to somebody else's business, or can I commit those same 10 years to me and building something that I really want to do? So I think the combination of that plus, the situations at my previous job, just everything was kind of out of alignment. And so it kind of forced me to it makes it less scary when you feel like you're not living up to your potential. For me, that's kind of what drives that. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you get out there, in my experience, once you get out there, you find it's a little less scary than what you had pictured.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're doing it, you're swimming, you're in the water, and you're like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's some boats flying by
Right.
pretty fast, but I'm not drowning, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
That's
that's where a
good.
lot of people are. They feel like, oh, if I make this move or yeah, if
Mhm.
they make this move or whatever, it's, you know, what happened? It's kind of that catastrophic scenario. What if the worst possible scenario happens? Well, what if it does? You know, so I
But go
mean, what
ahead.
if? So yeah, so that's pretty much what sort of flipped the switch for me to say, you know, this is how I need to move forward. And it was so clear, and I had such a peace about it, that I didn't question it all the way through. It made it easy to just say, here we go. So.
All right. Okay. Now, so one of the things I wanted to add is, you said that you were able to reflect and realize that you were not living up to your potential. You
Hmm.
kind of took that time to reflect. So, a lot of people have those moments, but they ignore them. They
Hmm.
bury them. They get into, coping with other things that are not healthy. You're at that point, what is it that somebody can do to be on the positive side more so than the negative side?
Yeah, and that's a hard place to be because the negative definitely always seems more obvious than the positive. The negative will present itself without any challenge at all. The positive you have to actually go look for in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
cases. And I think one thing I've been kind of on I guess you'd call it a little bit of a tear about lately, both online and with my clients, is you have to write this stuff down. Like if you don't write this stuff down, you don't know what's going on. There's a million things flying around your head on any given day. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't capture some of that stuff, even just in bullet form or a thought or a feeling or something you just want to remember, it's really hard to know how you're feeling. But when you look back, you go, oh, look at that. You know, I didn't realize I see that pattern in what I was thinking, or I forgot that I even had that thought the other day. And so in order to kind of put a plan together to say, you know, how do I do this? How do I move forward? You kind of have to know where you've been to know where you can go. And that's a really, I'm always hammering that big time. I don't care how you do it, you know, on your phone, write it in lipstick on your mirror. It doesn't matter. Just capture it in some way so that when you look at it, you say, okay, what am I dealing with here? Wow, okay, I've been struggling with this for a long time. Maybe I should actually take some action on it, and figure
Okay.
out what my next step is. But it's, you know, it's getting that visual and being able, and I do it too. I look back at my older writings and I'm like, wow, okay, I don't know that I would write that the same way again. I feel differently about it now. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that unless I capture it. So that's a really big one because then you're interacting with those thoughts. You're questioning them. It's almost like putting a puzzle together. You're trying to figure out where all the pieces go,
Right.
and it's hard to do that with just anecdotal thoughts swimming around in your head, along with, you know, did I remember to put toilet paper on the grocery list? And, you know,
Right.
when my kids had an early day at school, I got to remember to pick
Isn't
them
that
up
the
and not
truth?
forget them. Like all of that, you know, it's all of that. All your deep life stuff is mixed in with that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a critical one that I push a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. That's good. You have something you want to say?
I just wanted to just add the fact of I think it's important that we realize our stress indicators.
Mhm.
Um, so when before even our mind gets clouded, we have to, I guess, prevent the gate from opening up in the first place. We
Mm-hmm.
have to
Mhm.
realize, what's the pressure, what's going on around us. How can I desensitize some of these things? So I think that's important as well. Just before you actually get stressed out, like what's getting you stressed out.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's definitely true, and I think that speaks to maybe even some of the self-care, um,
Mm-hmm.
information, because you know we tend to think of self-care like it's exercise is good for your cardiovascular health. You know, it can lift your mood. Sleep is good for you. We tend to think of those, like those self-care things, as ways to improve our mood, and they do, but they
Mm-hmm.
also build a foundation and a baseline to help you be more resilient to stress, and you don't notice that. It just kind of happens.
Oh.
So then when you say, for example, you know, you don't get enough sleep one night and now you're snapping at everybody at the office the next day, it's a little easier for you to say, oh, you know what? I didn't get enough sleep last night. That's most likely what's happening here. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make sure I either, you know, try hard to minimize the snapping or go out and take a walk, or just so that you can take action on it. And if you have that good self-care regimen, whatever it is, then you're tuned into what your triggers are a little bit more. And so that's a really really big one, and a lot of people don't see that. They think of self-care as a spa day, or which is great.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, I don't hate spa days or anything like that, but it's a little more than that. It's doing those things that help keep you resilient, so that when arrows and slings and all those things start coming at you, you have a little bit of a foundation to at least put your hand up and stop it for a second and say, what's going on here and what's my part in it? So Andrew, I think you touch on a really important point. That's self-awareness. We really have to build that for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves so that we know how to manage ourselves when those things come up instead of just reacting and then having to go back and apologize later.
Right.
Exactly.
Sorry.
This
But you
is
know
so
what?
true.
That's
And
okay
then,
too.
I mean, in my case, I was hospitalized for,
Mhm.
I would
Mhm.
didn't have the awareness to see that I was taking on too much, not doing the self-care, so just like I was asking you about the whole thing of being able to take that time to reflect and coming up with positive things that you can do. So for somebody who is, first of all, just the first step of getting that self-awareness, what are some practical things that you would think that people should implement today that can just be one thing that they could start working on to kind of create momentum to kind of take that big step of
Mhm.
beginning to have self-awareness.
Well, and that's a great point too, because to take the big step, we really have to be able to take the small steps first, so that we're
Mhm.
not overwhelmed by the big step, right? And I would say
Mhm.
for a lot of people, I encouraged somebody the other day, look back on your calendar last week. What did you actually do? And then when you look at
Okay.
that, you see like what your actual priorities were, because that's what you got done. So that was
Okay.
important enough that you checked the box, whether you did it intentionally or not, you did it. And so
Mhm.
you can start there and say, okay, well, what are the things that I was like kind of spot on with that was healthy and good for me? And what are the things that I wish I hadn't done or had pushed to some other side, and kind of reformulate your calendar. Really and truly, what's on your calendar is your priority. And that's
Right.
an easy way to say, okay, if it's exercise, if it's taking a walk, don't try to walk for the next 30 days. Try to just walk this week. Put that on your calendar in the
Right.
morning, in the afternoon, in the middle of the day. I mean, I know it's
Mhm.
snowing for some people still. I'm in South Florida, so I can walk every day.
That's right.
And I try to be sensitive to that. But to just place that one thing in there, just the one thing, that's going to
Right.
help you, finish the afternoon strong or take care of the stress you've had all day, or for people who like it in the morning, to just deal with it first and build up that resilience for the whole day. It's one thing, and that's it. You don't have to focus on 8 different things you need to change. Just pick one thing that you think would make the most difference and just do
Mm.
that this week. And that's a game changer. And that's a little what's called behavioral activation.
Okay.
Because when somebody's severely depressed, to tell them like, "Hey, we want you to be happy," that's not even like something they can even consider at that
It's
point.
not even achievable. I mean, I've been
Right.
there because I didn't even, you're just talking a foreign language.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
so, you look at, okay, what are the things if you're depressed that you're not doing? You're maybe not sleeping, or you're sleeping too much. You're
Mhm.
not, you're not being active. You're not involving yourself with other people. So let's
Mhm.
deal with one of those things in a really small way to just get you going, so
Right.
that it doesn't feel overwhelming. And I think we can all apply a little of that to our lives, because I think, especially if you're active on like LinkedIn or Facebook, you feel all this pressure that you got to grind and hustle and take care of all of this stuff, and that's a
Right.
recipe for disaster if you're not careful.
That
You
yeah.
want to just take it step by step, day by day. Give yourself credit for that day. You did it. Great job.
Mhm.
And then do it again tomorrow.
I love that. I mean, that is just so easy to implement because I know for me with being depressed, I mean, I couldn't even get out of bed. So my first thing was making my bed every day.
It's
Because
perfect.
it was just really a hard thing for me. So, I mean, for somebody who's in that space, I definitely can appreciate the small gestures and just being able to have something realistic. Because a lot of times, it's just you're overwhelmed from beating yourself up and you just have
Mhm.
physical fatigue or you can't think clearly. All these different things are going on as a result of stress and depression that
Mhm.
you really can only handle so to speak, as if it's a meal, one bite, just
Right.
one bite at
Right.
a time.
Well, and I
Hmm.
think one thing I've been really focused on too is, I call ourselves 21st century citizens, right? And
Hmm.
so we're living in a different time, really and truly, from a really any other time in human history. I mean, the technological advances and the way we work and the way we interact with each other, everything's changed.
Hmm.
So to apply principles from 100 years ago, there might be some good stuff there, but I think we have to really think about, well, how do we really manage ourselves now? We have to do something different because what we're doing now isn't working, obviously,
Right.
because a lot of people are struggling. So what is the answer? Everybody kind of has to, I think, be more intentional with their life and say, this is as far as I go. These are my boundaries. This is what I need to take care of, and everything else will take care of itself. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no one stop answer for
Mm-hmm.
that. It's everybody's gonna kind of has to start focusing on that for themselves and sort of taking that control back
Yeah.
for themselves. Yeah, we all have to do it. So,
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Something you want to add?
No, that was it was. I could tell the information was good. I could tell that you've been in the industry for a while because of the depth of the information, the tactics you explained. I could tell that they were well experienced tactics and skills that you have been honing on, that you've been studying, that you've seen. So I think I got more than enough information than I expected actually.
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, good. Well, and I like tactical because,
Yeah.
we tend to talk in generalities, be awesome, be great, but tell me what that means. Like, how do I make that
Right.
happen, right?
Right.
So I'm the first one to look for that for myself. Give me a tactic and a strategy I can dig my teeth into. And I want
Mm-hmm.
to share that with other people. And it's not hard. It's just, but you do have to do the work. And that's the kicker in all of this
Tell me
is
about
that
it.
you have
Mm-hmm.
to decide. I mean, I tell people it's great to have insight and go, that's why I'm so screwed up. That's great. Now I know. But then you have to do something with it. You have to interact with it. You
Exactly.
have to move, you're the one who has to do the work, and that's the hardest part. We all love the
Mm-hmm.
epiphany, but then the work is like, "Oh, well, this is kind of painful." Well, yes, it is.
Exactly.
But
Exactly. You are
yeah.
absolutely right. Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. Now, do you feel, in closing, as we wrap it up, do you feel like there's a difference in the tactics that are implemented from a younger generation versus an older generation, or do you feel like they're the same?
That's an interesting question. Um, well, I know there's a lot of focus on the younger generation being on their phones all the time. That's what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
Not having good social skills because they don't interact face to face with their friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know that I see that in practice, to be honest.
Okay.
I think the principles still apply. You have to know yourself. You have to be intentional
Exactly.
with
Mm-hmm.
yourself, whether you're 80 or 18. Nobody really
Right.
gets away from that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting question. I've never really thought about that before. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and I do work with a fair amount of young adults who've convinced themselves that they have social anxiety, and they really don't. They just lack some skills. So that takes the
Right.
stress down a little
Right.
bit for them because you can learn a skill. So
Right.
so there's definitely a lot of stress and anxiety in that young adult population.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of nice to tell them like, look, you're not as screwed up as you think you are. You lack some skills, and you can learn the skills, and you can learn how to function better in society because that's what's creating stress for them. They've got their whole
Mm-hmm.
lives ahead of them, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is hard.
Yeah.
So, and I think the older generation has a little bit of responsibility to let them know life is hard, but you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can challenge yourself, and you can make mistakes and come back from it, and it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so any kind of last minute uh items you want to share with anybody? Somebody that may feel stressed, or just summarizing the key points that you think somebody needs to implement today in order to help their stress, help transition that stress to fuel something that's positive that's going to move you forward.
Well, I think so much of it is just changing your perspective on stress because when we talk about it, it has a negative connotation. But
Mm-hmm.
stress, I'm not a physics person by any stretch, but stress in and of itself is pressure applied to something to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think her name is Kelly McGonigal, wrote a great book on that called The Upside of Stress. That
Okay.
just goes into all the healthy reasons that stress can be good for you if you change how you look at it and how
I
you manage
see.
it. And so I think that's really where, summing all of that up would be, look, know that you're going to have some stress in life. Nobody has a stress-free life, but if you change how you look at your stress, get in there and work with it and interact with it and flesh it out and figure out what's
Mm-hmm.
going to work for you to help keep you feeling healthy and strong and resilient.
Mm-hmm.
Make that your thing, go with it, and then just use that to, take on new challenges, create new opportunities for yourself. Because that's the best part is once you kind of figure out a rhythm for yourself and all this and how to, you're not going to not have stress, but, how to
Right.
manage it when you get it. What do you do with it? How do you handle yourself? then you
Mm-hmm.
create new opportunities because now you're not so focused on your stress. You're focused on what's in front of you. And so
Right.
that's everything. If people can get a vision for that, then I think that's half the battle.
That sounds great.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Okay, so how can everybody get a hold of you? What's the best way to
Um,
reach you?
the easiest way is just my website is kind of the hub for everything, and that's
Okay.
LoriMiller.me, LoriMiller.me.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And all my stuff is there, and you can contact me via email, hit me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, all that's attached there. So that's the easiest way to find me.
Sounds good. All right. Well, we really want to thank you for your time, Lori. Thank you so much for your insight. And we look forward to now. Do you have any books or anything out that we need to let everybody know?
Not yet. I'm still working on that, but I do have a podcast called Mental Health Moment
Oh,
that
okay.
I put out every day except like Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
And it's just, quick hit ways to, something to think about for the day, something, we talked about the tactical piece, something tactical you can apply to your life that day.
Awesome.
And you can find that on my website as well. You'll see a link to all the previous episodes and then how to subscribe to the new one. So that's my focus right now.
Awesome. All right. Well, we want to thank you for your time today. And we look forward to having you back on when you complete your book then.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, I
We're
appreciate you
speaking it
guys
into
having me on.
existence. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
it.
We got to
That's
hold each
it.
other accountable.
I absolutely love that. I need it so bad.
Look, I've been working on an ebook for forever, okay? But, I'm trying to get it done over the next 60 days.
Yeah, okay. All
Yeah.
right. So I'll be looking out
So,
for that
we got
then.
to put that
Okay.
out there and hold
That's
ourselves
it.
accountable.
That's it. That's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All
Well, I
right.
appreciate
Well,
you guys
thanks
having
again.
me on, and I
Yeah.
appreciate your support and just all the great feedback.
Well, we really appreciate you too. And we want to thank you again for your time. And I'm going to be there in May. My daughter's graduating from University of Miami. So hopefully we'll be able to get
Oh,
together.
yes.
I'll
I would
call
love
you and
that.
see if we can get together while I'm there.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Let's definitely do that.
Okay. All right.
All
Well, you have
right.
a good day. Okay.
All right, you too. Thank
Thanks
you, Andrew.
again. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.